everybody. Welcome to Bay Tales number 6. I'm Vic Watson, and somewhere else on your screen is Simon Bewick. If you haven't joined us before, you do have the option to chat. Somewhere on your screen there is a chat box. Please feel free to chat with your fellow attendees and the panelists. But obviously we do ask that you're a little bit polite when people are reading, so just lay off the keyboard then, please. We also have a Q&A button, so if you have any questions for our guests this evening, pop your question in there and Simon and I will endeavour to put them to our guests. Simon, do you want to tell us a little bit more?
Okay, so for those of you that have been before, it's the same sort of format. We'll be starting off with some short previews of books that are coming out over the next month that Vic and I are looking forward to. We're then going to have an extended review of someone that can review books properly from Sharon Bairden. We're then going to have a reading from Martin Walker, who's joining us from Exotic Climes. And then we'll have our usual short break. We do advise you to hang around for the break. So if you need to go anywhere and grab a drink, try and do it quickly, because that's the chance where, well, firstly, you get to hear some great music from Jason Isaacs. And you'll also get the chance to win some of the books that we've been talking about during our preview sessions and more. And we've got a few more surprises coming up. But Vic, what else do we have?
Yes, one thing I will say is if you can't hurry to the kitchen to get your drink, get your butler to do it. That's all I'll say. Tonight, we are spotlighting Martin Edwards, winner of the 2020 CWA Diamond Dagger. Woo! He is also author of the Harry Devlin series, the Lake District Mysteries, and the Rachel Savanake novels. You can chat about us today using the hashtag, what's that? Hashtag Baytales. You'd think I'd know where it was by now. Yeah. So, do you want to talk about what you've been reading, Mr. B?
Yeah. The one thing I would say also is also sitting behind Vic, probably at some point, if I look off to the side and check, you may see a couple of sneaky little adverts inviting you to donate a few pennies to us if you do have any. As always, we offer the show for free. Everything we do is free. The website, all the fiction, non-fiction on there. But obviously we have costs to pay around web hosting, emails, Zoom costs and so on. So if you can, please do feel free to chip in at co/v.com/baytales and all of those things. But let's get on to the books that I've been reading. So the first one, One Way Street. So last year, Trevor Wood's first novel, Man on the Street, about Jimmy Mullen, a homeless PTSD-suffering veteran who witnesses a murder while living rough on the streets of Newcastle, was released. It enjoyed huge critical success, the winner of the CWA John Creasy Dagger and a Theakston's New Blood author for 2020. Now, Trevor's sequel, One Way Street, is coming out. If you read the first book, you'll know the book followed not only Jimmy, but his dog, named Dog, and his friends, the conspiracy theorists Gadge and Dino, a young man fighting constant battle with drug dependency. In this new book, a series of drug-related deaths are sweeping across the region, killing runaway teenagers. When someone close to Dino dies, Jimmy feels a sense of loyalty to step in and help investigate who's really behind the spate of deaths and what their motives might be. It's written with the same feeling of humanity and authenticity that Trevor brought us in his first novel and allows us to see more of the secondary characters from that story. It shows us with empathy, but never over-romanticizing things, the lives, the history, and the experience of Jimmy and his companions. So the book's out in hardback on 10th of June. You can buy it now for just 99 pence on Kindle, I think. And what I'd say is watch out on our website over the next week or two, because Trevor is going to be writing an exclusive article for us with a bit of background to his new novel. Now, the second choice of mine, I haven't read, just to convince you we don't get all of our books free from publishers, is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So those of you of a certain age might remember the proliferation of the novelization back in the 70s and 80s, where all the major and quite a lot of minor movies tended to have them, normally a novel based on an early draft of the film's script and produced on a tight deadline. And they didn't tend to offer much in the way of great literature. So now here's something a little different. In 2019, Quentin Tarantino released his 9th movie, the 2-hour, 41-minute satirical masterpiece, or self-indulgent gore fest, depending on your point of view. So next month, his 416-page novel version is being released. I've no idea how he's going to invert or subvert or do whatever Quentin Tarantino chooses to do with the novelization. Who knows? But personally, I love the film, so I do have the book ordered to find out what's going to be happening. The third book I'm going to talk about briefly tonight, I can't show you the cover, and until an hour ago, I wasn't even sure I could mention the title of it. But I've been told by the author I can. It's Death at Duke's Halt, which is Derek Farrell's latest Danny Bird novel. Fahrenheit, the publishers behind Derek's books, are doing one of the interesting marketing tactics with this one, and they're revealing a tidbit of a cover and information each week before it's released next month. I can tell you, I have read it, and it's not just the marketing campaign, it's a great mystery. I love the Danny Bird series, and we're pretty sure you will too. Again, if you visit the Bay Tales website, you can read the first 3 chapters of the tales of the barman come amateur detective's adventures from Derek's first book in the series, Death of a Diva. He's also provided us with an exclusive article going into the background of how Danny came to be in our non-fiction session. For me, there aren't many genuinely funny crime books out there, and I think it can often fall very flat when trying to combine the two. But I think, for me, this series stands up there with the likes of Colin Bateman or the early Chris Brookmeyer books, or even Lawrence Bloch's Bernie Rodenbach series, in terms of combining genuine humor and great plots. So have a look at the website to find out more. Keep watching for a bit more information. Make sure you watch The Break, where we'll be giving you more information on the book and how to get a signed copy and so on. And we might have a few more surprises coming up. So that's my list, Vic. Over to you.
Excellent. And I completely echo what you say about, I was going to call him Danny. I've only known him how many years? About Derek's writing. He's fantastic, and he is one of the few crime writers who can make me laugh out loud. So I'm totally with you there. I'm also very jealous that you've read it. So before I talk about my 3 books this month, I also wanted to let you know that it's the 15th anniversary of the Quick Reads scheme this year. While most of us at Bay Tales tonight are book addicts, 1 in 6 adults in the UK find reading difficult, and that equates to about 9 million people. 1 in 3 don't regularly read for pleasure. I've no idea what they do, but they don't read for pleasure. Quick Reads plays a vital role in addressing these shocking stats by inspiring emergent readers, as well as those with little time or those who've fallen out of the habit. This year, for every copy bought until the 31st of July, another copy will be gifted to help someone else discover the joy of reading. There are 6 books on the list this year, including The Motive by Karam Raman and Wish You Were Dead by Peter James, our inaugural Bay Tales guest. Each book is £1, and they'll be available from tomorrow. I started it when I got my jab on Saturday, but life got in the way. But I am going to dive back into The Motive by Karam Raman. Yes, I know, it's meant to be quick. I'm not that quick. So my 3 reads: True Crime Story by Joseph Knox. In the early hours of Saturday, 17th of December 2011, Zoe Nolan, a 19-year-old Manchester uni student, walked out of a party. She has never been seen again. 7 years after her disappearance, struggling writer Evelyn Mitchell finds herself drawn into the mystery. Through interviews with Zoe's closest friends and family, she begins piecing together what really happened in 2011. But where some versions of events overlap, aligning perfectly, others stand in stark contrast, giving rise to troubling inconsistencies. Shaken by revelations of Zoe's secret life and stalked by a figure from the shadows, Evelyn turns to crime writer Joseph Knox to help make sense of a case where everyone has something to hide. Zoe Nolan may be missing, presumed dead, but her story is only just beginning. Simon and I had a sneak preview of True Crime Story at Virtual Noir at the Bar last year, so I was absolutely desperate to get my hands on this one. The story is actually told through interviews and emails between Evelyn and Joseph, and it is an absolute page turner. From a writer's point of view, it is audacious, ambitious, and often ambiguous. true crime story will have you suspecting literally everybody who Joseph Knox mentions, including himself. It's out on the 17th of June, and we have one copy to give away tonight. So, like Simon says, keep watching at the break. The book I finished reading last night was The Murder of Graham Catton by Katie Lowe. 10 years ago, Hannah Catton's husband was brutally murdered in their home. The murderer was convicted and the case was closed. But now, a podcast called Conviction is investigating this horrific crime, and they have Hannah in their sights. Someone knows more than they're letting on, and the listeners are about to become judge, jury, and executioner as they uncover the truth about the murder of Graham Catton. A year ago tomorrow, in fact, Katie joined us at VNAT Bay and shared an exclusive preview of this book. It's written through the eyes of Hannah, and the novel gives us an interesting look at the life of someone who's the subject of a podcast. It's absolutely unputdownable. It's out on the 10th of June, but again, check the break because we do have more than one copy to give away. And finally, the book that I'm about to crack into is The Therapist by Helene Flood. A voicemail from her husband tells Sarah he's arrived at the holiday cabin. Then a call from his friend confirms that he never did. She tries to carry on as normal, teasing out her client's deepest fears, but as the hours stretch on, her own begin to surface. And when the police finally take an interest, they want to know why Sarah deleted that voicemail. To get to the root of Sigurd's disappearance, Sarah must question everything she knows about their relationship. Could the truth about what happened be inside her head? This is a debut from a professional psychologist, and it's perfect for fans of Nordic noir. If this sounds like your cup of tea, you might want to register for Bay Tales next month. So there you go. Shall I introduce our guest reviewer, the one who'll do it properly?
Makes sense, doesn't it, really? Yeah.
I realise I've completely messed that up, sorry. So, by day, Sharon Bairden manages an independent advocacy service near Glasgow and has a passion for human rights. By night, she has a passion for all things criminal. Sharon blogs about her love of crime fiction over at Chapter in My Life, and last November released her debut novel, Sins of the Father, a psychological thriller published by Red Dog Press. Sharon is with us tonight to talk about Trapped by Anna Smith. So everybody, please give a huge round of applause for the lovely Sharon Bairden.
Oh, thank you, Vic. That was such a lovely introduction. That's really made my night. Hi, everyone. As Vic says, I'm Sharon Bairden, blogger over at Chapter in My Life, and I have been dying to share this review. This is an exclusive review. It's not even up on my blog yet. Trapped by Anna Smith, published by Quercus and came out on paperback on the 13th of May. Anybody who knows me knows that I love my Scottish crime fiction. You might have guessed by my dulcet tones. I'm from outside of Glasgow, and Scottish crime is my thing. I love Anna Smith's writing is fantastic. I'm been a huge fan of hers for years, and this series really blows my socks off. Rather than me giving any spoilers, because I always worry about giving spoilers, I'm going to read out the blurb of Trapped. Crime boss Kerry Casey is still reeling from the bombshell that her lover, undercover cop Vinnie Burns, has gone missing in Spain. She's pregnant with his baby and will do anything to find him. One night, Kerry and her Uncle Danny are ambushed by gunmen and can only look on as two bodies and bags of cocaine are dragged from their assailant's car and placed in theirs. The police arrive in minutes. The cocaine, dead bodies and guns in the car, it looks like an open and shut case. With backup from the Casey gang, Kerry must somehow prove her innocence, mete out justice for the villains who framed her and find Vinnie. So Trapped is the fourth in the Kerry Casey series. It starts with Blood Feud, Fight Back and Endgame. You could read it on as a standalone, but do you know what? There's only 3 books before it, and I would say pick them up and give them a go. this is potentially the last in the series. So if you were to read it as a standalone, then you run the risk of some spoilers, because there's a few questions that have been posed throughout the series that we get some answers to in Trapped. But I guess it depends how OCD you are about reading things in order. I don't mind a little bit out of order every now and again. So, but really, it's a series that you need to read. So I would say just go and read them all before you read Trapped. For me, Anna Smith's she's one of those writers that she just never fails to deliver. Everything she produces just like pulls you right in there, and she's kind of carved herself a little place in my heart as a sort of Scottish Queen of Gritlit, if you like. And I think for fans of Kimberly Chambers, Martina Cole, then you really will love Anna Smith's writing, and you will definitely love this series. So Kerry Casey is the head of a gang family based in Glasgow, which is a wee bit different than most of our gangsters. She's a bit of a reluctant gangster. She became kind of caught up, embroiled in the darker side of her family after an incident at her mum's funeral, which thrust her into a limelight that she really didn't want to be in. Prior to that, she'd been sort of shipped away to keep her away from the darker side of the family. And, she'd started to carve herself out quite a respectable career as a lawyer. But as I say, something happened at her mum's funeral, and she was just pushed into the limelight. So this whole series is about Kerry as that kind of reluctant gangster, the one that's trying to turn her family business legit, if you like. But as you can imagine, it's not all been plain sailing. So the title of this book, Trapped, and when you read the prologue, again, Anna Smith is the queen of killer hook openings. There was no chance that I was picking that book up and putting it down anytime soon. She completely grabbed me, and she pulled me right in. The book was stuck to my fingers all the way through. She's created a cast of characters. She's put them in a setting that will convince you they're real. The places are real. It's set in Glasgow. Spain. Switches between Glasgow and Spain, mainly for this one. A wee bit of down south as well. And obviously there's a lot of streets and places that I recognise in Glasgow. But I tell you, I read this series and I'm convinced I'm going to pick up the tabloids or turn on the 6 o'clock news and see the Casey family featuring heavily in the news. That's how real they feel to me. And I love a book, or a series where you get so caught up in the characters' lives that they do seem real, and you do pick up the papers and you turn on the television, you're like, oh my goodness, why is that story not on the news? So that's Kerry Casey and her family for you. The plot, perfect pacing, absolutely perfect. It drags you along, hurtles you along, and then gives you a little breather, gives you a chance to settle yourself back down before picking you up and throwing you back out there. So as I say, it was impossible to put down. It's told from multiple points of view, and that really allows you to get right inside the head of the characters and get to know them. Not that you really want to know them all that well. Some of them are dodgy people, very dodgy people, and there's some seriously unlikable people in there, and especially in Trapped. I'm not going to tell you who they are. She also really tugged at my heartstrings with this one. As you hear from the blurb, Kerry's been set up, and she ends up in prison. And it would have been really easy just to make Kerry the head honcho in prison. You know, she's got that reputation, but I don't know. Anna really, she really unpicked some of the issues that face women, women who find themselves incarcerated. She gives more than a nod to that sort of brutal and raw truth that lies behind the stories of many women that are locked up. Most women who are locked up are not bad women and have not done bad things. Bad things have happened to them, and she really, throughout the book, she really digs deep into some social, some really dark social issues. So the book keeps your mind ticking over all the way through. As I said before, Kerry's always been a bit reluctant as a gangster, and facing life behind bars was just not what she had planned out for herself. But Anna draws this character so well that she just gives her the right amount of emotional. There's the emotional touch, but there's the shrewd businesswoman of her. So you can see that sort of conflict between both sides of Kerry's personality. The one that wants to go legit, but the one that actually a pretty good businesswoman gangster, if you like. And Trapped, she touches upon the ugly sectarianism, I'm afraid, that is part of Scottish culture, although we are desperately trying to get rid of it. And by doing that, she doesn't gloss anything over. She doesn't paint a pretty picture sometimes. She really uncovers some dark and unpalatable truths. And she picks out some of the less salubrious drinking dens and across Glasgow, ones that you might not want to visit if you're coming up to my dear Green City. But Anna's also, she's a journalist, that's her background, and it's clear that she's got this ability to take a pile of words and just turn them into something that lives and breathes on the pages. She brings her characters and her stories to life, and there's no way she could have been a journalist and covered some of the stories that she has without gaining that wealth of experience that's allowed her to create these characters and these stories that she writes. I've been lucky enough to interview Anna. I've been lucky enough to meet her on a few occasions and see her at panels. And I think there's a little bit of Anna in all of her characters. And as somebody who is an author stalker, really, and goes to events and loves going to author events, I would always say go and see your favourite author, go and see them talk, go and see them being interviewed. It really gives you a real insight into their character and the work that they produce. And if you ever get a chance to go and see Anna Smith being interviewed, then grab it. She's a fascinating lady with some fascinating stories. She's a fantastic writer, and seriously, if you're looking for a good read, then buy Trapped now, buy the whole series, and it's one of those books that you're going to be reading well after you should have been putting your lights out in your bed. And that's me, and I'm going to hand back over to Vic. Thanks, Vic.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thanks a lot. So that's our reviews, previews, books bit section this month. You can find more reviews at the Bay Tales website. If you've read something that you'd like to recommend, you can send us your reviews at baytales20@gmail.com, and we'll tidy it up for you, format it a bit, put it on the website, and post as many as we can. And one featured reviewer each month will receive one of our own favorite books that we've received, and they're normally out ahead of time, to give away as a prize. So do share your reviews of what you've enjoyed, and send them through to that email address, just behind Vic there, I think. You can also find us on social media, and as you may know, we put out a bit of a request over the weekend. Well, Vic did while I was off on traveling when I apparently shouldn't have been, but who knew?
You rebel.
Yeah, don't care. Nobody's stopping me. So Vic, you put out the request for a few more Twitter follows. How did that go?
Well, I was worried it was going to be like, got to get 80 to get to 1,000. Can we do it by Wednesday? We did it within 2 hours. So thank you to everyone who retweeted. We've far surpassed that. I think we're now at about 1,200 and something followers. So because it was so successful, I decided that we would not give away one bundle, but two. So during Sharon's review, I definitely didn't put all the names in a hat because I would have been on forever and I would need a huge hat. So I used a special thing online, and the winner of our yellow bundle is Danielle Devlin, and the winner of the pink bundle is Natalie Crossan. I hope you guys are in the audience tonight, but if not, you'll be getting a DM from Bay Tales in the next day or so, just to arrange getting your new books to you. So congratulations. Now we're going to go to our guest author. Martin Walker is the author of the huge and popular Dordogne Mysteries. Before settling down the gorgeous Perigord that provides the backdrop to the novels, Martin, I'm not at all jealous. I am very jealous. Martin was an award-winning foreign correspondent working across the USSR, USA, Europe and Africa, as well as authoring several acclaimed works of non-fiction. Woo! Since 2008, though, he's been celebrated as the man behind the unconventional, inimitable detective Bruno Courget. I'm sorry, I have French A-level, that was appalling. And his iconic Basset Hound Balzac, both tasked with keeping the lovely town of Saint Denis free from crime. Yet, as you may expect, crime always finds a way of finding them. Having long charmed readers across the world with irresistible evocations of French culture and cuisine, The Coldest Case, the 14th instalment in the series, is no exception. Here's Martin to give you a taste of the new book. So everybody, Martin Walker.
Well, thank you, Vic. Thank you very much. And hello, everybody. And it's publication day tomorrow, so I'm delighted to be doing this reading from the new novel, The Coldest Case. It's from the very beginning, from chapter 1. The 3 skulls transfixed him. The first, the original, that had been unearthed after 70,000 years, was not quite complete. Beside it stood a reconstruction, an exact copy, artificially filled in with the missing parts of the jaw and the cranium. Beside them, glowing eerily in the museum's carefully crafted lighting, was a copy, or perhaps a casting, of the same skull, made from an almost transparent blue plastic. Bruno shifted his glance back to the original, whose caption said it was the most perfect Neanderthal skull ever found. It came from the rock shelter of La Ferracie, a place he passed each day as he drove from his home to his office as the chief of police of the small French town of Saint-Denis. This skull, however, made him think of the curious obsession of his friend Gégé, chief detective for the department of the Dordogne, with another and more recent skull. Bruno knew this skull well, since its enlarged photograph had for 3 decades accompanied Gégé, it stood for Jean-Jacques, to every office he had ever occupied. These days, the photo of the skull was fixed to the back of JJ's door, where he could see it from his place at the imposing desk that was standard issue for such a senior official. His visitors could not miss it as they left the room. His fellow cops often speculated why JJ submitted himself willingly to this constant reminder of his first big case, the one he had failed to solve as a young detective some 3 decades earlier. "What do you think of the exhibition, Bruno? You've been studying it long enough," asked Clotilde Daumier, a short, red-haired powerhouse of a woman who was one of the museum's curators and a good friend of Bruno. "It's wonderful," Bruno replied. "Thank you for inviting me to the preview. I'm overwhelmed with the skill of the reconstruction." "In that case, tell the artist yourself," Clotilde said, steering him toward an attractive grey-haired woman who moved gracefully as she advanced to greet him. Elizabeth Dayness, meet Bruno Courage, our chief of police and a good friend who has a great interest in archaeology. He even found a modern corpse in one of our ancient graves. Clotilde's archaeologists found it, Bruno said, smiling. I've just helped find out who it was. I'm really impressed by your work, Madame Dayness, bringing these people back to life. You're very kind, she said, but how did you find that your body was not some prehistoric skeleton? Because he was wearing a swatch, Bruno replied. It had only been made since 1983. Tell me, madam, have you ever worked with the police in trying to reconstruct the faces of unidentified skeletons? A little, but only informally. It's a considerable investment in time and effort to make such a reconstruction, and the courts are rather skeptical. I understand if you study the verbal descriptions that people give of strangers, they usually describe the hair, its style, its color, the color of the eyes, whether the face is fleshy or thin, and these are the various attributes that we cannot discern from the skull itself. What we do is use the contours of the individual skull, which vary very much more than you might think, even among family members, to reconstruct each of the 43 separate muscles in the human face. I think we can go a long way to reconstruct the features. So the muscular structure of a face carries or varies with the small differences in the shape of each individual skull? Exactly, she said. We use a laser measurement system to map the precise shape of each skull down to a fraction of a millimeter. We put them into a computer, which creates a three-dimensional model. Then we use a high-precision 3D printer to give us the head. And we use a laser again to compare this printed skull with a cast we made of the original. So they're absolutely identical. Why bother with the computer-printed version when you have a cast of the original? Bruno asked. Because we can do so much more of our work in recreating the musculature on the computer, where it's easy to make adjustments. And with the computer, we can share images of our progress with colleagues. For example, when we reconstructed the face of the pharaoh Tutankhamun from his skull, the computer allowed us to stay in touch with the National Geographic magazine people in Washington and with the Cairo Museum. So if you knew the hair color and that the body was that of a young man in his 20s, could you reconstruct something in which you would have confidence? I always have confidence in my work, Monsieur Bruno, but should I assume that you have some particular skeleton in mind and that you're hoping to enlist my help in solving a cold case? Aha! And off we go into the long hunt, back into the thousands of years.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Martin.
Thank you, Vic.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, everybody. So we're going to go to a very, very quick break. Before we do that, like Simon said earlier, we don't charge for these events. You can come and join us for free. We give our books away for free. If and only if you can manage it, we do ask that you pop a little donation in our Ko-Fi account. But please don't put yourself into financial hardship on our accounts when no times are hard at the moment, which is why all of our content is free. We're going to go to a break. If you like the sound of pretty much any of the books we discussed or Sharon discussed, stick around because there's going to be information on how to enter our competition to win them. We'll see you in 5.